We are here in Scratch. I am logged in as myself, and we are going to create a new project. So I'm going to click on Create. I'm taken to the project. We are going to create a Scratch project that is a game to promote people picking up plastic from the ocean. And by making it into a game, it can be fun and educational. What we'll have is a plastic bottle that lands in the middle of, at the bottom of the ocean, and we will have a fish that is racing to the bottle to try to eat it, and we will have a diver racing against the fish to try to get to the bottle before the fish can eat it. And we will keep some sort of a score to see if the diver can beat the fish to the bottle. First things first is we are going to choose a backdrop to change the backdrop to underwater. So I'm going to search for underwater. And there's two options here. I like this one, so I'm going to choose that. The first thing we want to do is to make the plastic bottle. So I'm going to click on costumes and change the cat to a picture of a plastic bottle. So we can go here, and I'm going to upload my costume. I've saved these pictures. I'll give you a link so that you can download these pictures too, and we're going to add a plastic bottle. Let me zoom out a little bit. We really want the picture to fill as much as we can of this drawing surface, so I'm going to convert to vector and click on it, and we can make it bigger. So if we make it pretty much as big as this window, what we can do over here is make it smaller. I want this to be a pretty small plastic bottle, so I'm going to do something like 20, maybe 15. Let's stick with 20. And the idea is that the plastic bottle will be down here on the floor, and the fish and the diver will race to try to get to it. Let's rename it Plastic Bottle. And let's go to the code to see what we want to do. Let's start with our green flag. And when the green flag is clicked, we want this to be moved somewhere randomly down here along the bottom of the ocean floor. Let's go to motion, and we can say go to. So you can tell a specific X, which is the horizontal, and the Y, which is the vertical. Now see, as I move this, it changes the X and Y here, so it can pretty much tell where it's at. So I want it to be way down here. So my Y will never change. So that's 143 is a good Y. So we'll say minus 143 here. But the X we want to be random. Now over here, we know the middle of our screen is at 0. And as far right as we want to go is 222. So we want this to randomly change each time we play the game. So I'm going to go to operators and pull out a pick random. We'll go from 0, and we said to 222. If we run this by clicking the green button, we see that every time we click it, it is jumping around. It's moving it to a different random position, which is just what we want. Now we need our other two sprites. I'm going to create a new sprite, and I want the fish. Now I've got the fish in both directions. They're always going to start over here on the left, so we just want the right-facing fish. So I'm going to open that up. I'm going to rename it fish. And this fish I also need to make smaller, right? We want it to be much smaller. This is filling the drawing window pretty well, so let's try making this pretty small. Yeah, that looks about right. And we want it to start up here. And it's going to also be random. So we're randomly going to have it start somewhere in the corner along this edge, but it could be here, it could be here, and anywhere in between. So remembering this in the Y direction, we're going from 0 up to, and the highest in the Y direction will be 147. Let's go to the code, and let's copy the code. So in the fish, it's going to, we want to change the Y, right? So 0 up to 147. And then the X we want always to start at minus 203. So let's also try this now. And both of these sprites are now randomly changing their position. Let's add the third sprite, which is our diver, also facing to the right. And I'm going to rename him Diver with a capital D. He's too big as well, so let's go to costumes. He's filling up the space pretty well, I'd say. So let's change him also. Let's try him at 20. We want him a little bit bigger, maybe 22. Let's do 25. So he's about the same size as our fish. But 22 is probably good. They're about as wide as each other, so they are racing. Let's go back to code and let's copy this for the diver. So it's really easy in Scratch to copy and paste code by just dragging it onto the next sprite. Now for the diver, because he's a little bit of a different shape, we want the X on the diver to be minus 195. So it's a little bit different. And the Y, the highest we want the Y to be is 158. So let's change this to 158. And now we should see that each time we change it, all three sprites start in a new random position. Now we also want this to happen. So say, the diver races down and grabs the bottle. We would then want all three sprites to kind of reset to a new position. So we've got this happening when the green flag is clicked, but we want it to happen pretty much each time those two things happen. So I'm going to go to events and I'm going to make a broadcast. And that's going to broadcast to all three sprites to reset yourself and move yourself to a new random place. So I'm going to change this message to say reset. And when we start, we're going to broadcast reset. And then I can change this to when I receive the message to reset myself. And let's do that for all three of them. Only one sprite needs to broadcast it, so we don't need to broadcast it, but we will when I receive reset. So it doesn't really matter which of the three broadcast it, but all three have to receive it and move themselves. So we don't need this anymore, I don't think. And plastic bottle. So we need a when I receive reset for the plastic bottle, and it's going to do this. So it still should happen the same way as before, which it does. The next thing we want to happen is after we reset for the fish, we want it to just start going straight for that bottle. So we can say point towards the plastic bottle, and then we want to move. And if we put this into a forever, it will do that. So let's try it. It will go right for that plastic bottle. And of course, it just keeps bouncing around there. And I think that's a little too fast. So I'm actually going to slow it way down. Okay, so that slows it down nicely. But now it's still going to kind of do this crazy jumping around. The diver, by the same token, we want it to start moving towards the bottle, but we want the user involved here. So what I'm going to do is go to the diver, and I'm going to allow the user to press the up and down arrow to move the diver up and down. So this will change the Y by, and 10's a little bit much, so let's move him 5 pixels up, and I'm going to duplicate this and say when I move them down, let's go -5. So we'll go down, we'll be minus, and up will be a positive. And as we're controlling its up and down, we're just going to have him moving steadily across. So we'll do another forever, and we will change X by 2. So they should both be moving kind of at the same speed. Let's try this. So I'm going down with my down arrow, and I can get to the bottle a little bit faster than the fish, but each time we're in a different position. So each time one or the other sprite will have a slight advantage depending upon their position. So we don't want this jumping around to happen. Each time it hits the bottle, we want everything to reset. So I'm going to go to the plastic bottle, and it will detect whether or not the fish or the diver has reached him. And that's going to be under control. Let's check this forever. If we only check it once, it will only happen once. So we're going to say forever. And we can detect under sensing if we're touching the fish, then what do we want to do? Well, one thing we want to do is reset, but let's also, this is a game, so let's do something about points. Let's make a variable, and I'm going to rename this variable health. Let's display it, so click that box. I'm going to move it over this way because our sprites will be up here in the corner. Let's say when the green flag is clicked, let's set health to, let's start off with a health of 5. And the health will go down if the fish keeps eating plastic, or it'll go up if the diver can catch the plastic before the fish eats it. So here, if the fish is touching it, before we reset everything, we want to subtract 1 from health. So we want to change it by -1. We can duplicate this and add underneath it, make sure we stop. If it's touching the diver, let's change the health by a +1 and then reset. Let's try this and see what happens. So the fish is going down. I'll let the fish get it. And the health went down. Let's see if we can get down there before. Nope. Health is going down. All right, let's see if we can get there first. Health goes up. So we've got a slight advantage sometimes, but not all the time. Sometimes it's the fish, depending upon where we both start. So this seems to be working well. The last thing we want to do is, we can't go on forever. If the health of the fish gets to 0, that's just not good, right? So what we can do is stop the game when that happens. Let's, here in the same spot, add another if. And we'll say if, and under operators, we can check this equal. And we want to check the health, right? Let's check if the health, and if the health is 0, then the game is over. We want all 3 sprites to do something in this case, so let's make another broadcast. So we'll say, okay, we're going to broadcast a new message, and this will be game over. So we can say broadcast game over. And we will receive that broadcast. So for the plastic bottle, what we really want to do is just hide ourselves. So we can go to looks and say hide, which also means that we need to always make sure that we show ourselves each time we're playing the game. And what we can also do is, we don't want this to keep checking, so let's stop other scripts in this sprite. So that will stop this script from happening, and we won't be checking anything anymore. So that takes care of the bottle. Let's do the same for the diver. So let's actually drop this into the diver. And if we go to the diver, we can say, when I receive game over, we'll hide, and we can stop other scripts in this sprite. And let's also make sure we add a show when I receive a reset. And then the important one's the fish, right? We want the fish to say something. So let's say, when I receive game over, let's have the fish go to the middle of the screen So we're gonna go to 0, 0, and let's make sure he's pointing in this direction, which is that way. And we want him to say, uh-oh, I ate too much plastic. I am dead. And we can also stop other scripts for this sprite. Let's try this and see if all that works. So let's give ourselves 1 point. Okay, so that's 6, but let's now let the fish go ahead and eat the plastic and have its health go down to 0. And we can try, but we're not going to get there. So and this should make the game over. Uh-oh, I ate too much plastic, I am dead. So everything else disappeared. Let's make sure that if we start again, everyone will reappear and the game will start over again. Yep, health is 5, and we can now play the game again, and everything works as it should. So there you have it. We have a fun game that's also educational. Teaches people that if a fish eats too much plastic, it might die. So it's good if you can to pick up plastic in the ocean. Here's a challenge for you. We've taken care of the case where the fish eats too much plastic, but what about the diver? If the diver is able to beat the fish and pick up the plastic before it becomes too sick, the health will continue to go up. So let's add something where you check the health, and let's say if the health is 10, let's make this diver come to the middle and be the hero and maybe say something. Okay, so can you do that? We've checked for the health to be 0. We can add something to check if the health is 10. And then what will you do in that case? A nice challenge for you to try. And what else can you add? I'm sure there's all sorts of fun things you could add. You could have different pieces of plastic other than just bottles appear. So it's up to you. You can make this the best game that you can. Good luck.